Somewhere between faith and forgery, between divine light and dusty linen, lies one of the most controversial artifacts in religious history, the Shroud of Turin. For centuries, millions believed this linen cloth held the ghostly, life-sized image of Jesus after his crucifixion. But in the 1980s, science seemed to settle the debate when radiocarbon dating declared the shroud to be a devastating 14th century forgery. Case closed, right? Not even close. Because what happens when you introduce the latest, most powerful form of artificial intelligence, the kind that can generate hyper-realistic images from pure code and task it with reconstructing the face of God? In this video, we are diving into the bizarre, the terrifying, and the slightly blasphemous. Was the shroud an ancient lost technology, a fluke of chemistry, or a genuine miracle? And what happens when artificial intelligence is tasked with reconstructing the divine? AI has just broken history and saw the ghost of God. AI reveals the ghost of God. The Shroud of Turin has been making waves for a few centuries. To some, the shroud is the ultimate receipt for the resurrection, a burial cloth imprinted with the image of Jesus Christ himself. To others, it's a medieval hoax with excellent PR. But now, thanks to cutting-edge artificial intelligence and a new round of scientific scrutiny, the shroud is being resurrected once again, this time digitally and with cheekbones. In the year 2025, 5 years before the robot revolution that destroys humanity, just kidding, a team of researchers have done what Renaissance artists, popes, and conspiracy theorists have tried to do for ages. They have managed to pull the face of Jesus from the veil of mystery and in pixel-perfect detail. But before the big reveal, you need to know the full story. Back in the 1980s, radiocarbon dating threw cold holy water on the faithful when it declared the Shroud of Turin to be a 14th century forgery. It wasn't the first time the shroud was denounced as a fake, but it was the most recent and the most devastating. All around the world, people sighed, shook their heads, and said the science was wrong. It's an easy scapegoat to blame science, which is exactly what religious people did. The dating was wrong, the shroud is real, and it's just about faith, not science. Even outside of religion, the old test has never quite settled the debate. It left too many unanswered questions, too many unexplained details, and too many uncrossed T's and undotted I's. For example, one of the biggest conundrums was how do you fake a negative photographic imprint in the 1300s before cameras were even invented? Scientists claimed the shroud was a fake, but couldn't explain how it was done. And at the end of the day, the whole operation left a bad taste in everyone's mouth, from the devout to the agnostic. Now enter Dr. Liberato De Caro and his team, armed not with incense and Latin, but with wide-angle X-ray diffraction. Their findings, recently published in the journal Heritage, suggest that the shroud's linen fibers closely match samples from Masada in Israel. That is actually really exciting. It means the shroud itself can be traced to the region of the world where Jesus came from. It was made from actual linen fibers that came from Jesus's actual home region in Israel. And to make things even more convincing, the fibers were dated to between 55 and 74 AD, which is firmly within the Jesus walked here time range. And there's more. De Caro's analysis also discovered telltale signs of Middle Eastern pollen trapped in the fibers, not European pollen. So how could the shroud be a European fake if it wasn't even made from European materials? Under scrutiny, the whole hoax agenda starts falling apart. Combine all of this with the textile weave style and the new X-ray aging technique, and suddenly the idea that the shroud is 2,000 years old doesn't sound quite so crazy. The only caveat is that for the cloth to be real, it must have spent the first 1,300 years of its existence stored in near-perfect conditions. I say that because the shroud is pristine. And if you've ever owned a garment before, you'll know that clothing doesn't last a season, never mind 20 centuries. But it's also not far-fetched that the burial shroud of Christ would have been stored somewhere cool, dry, and isolated. To be fair, that is how most priceless relics spend their time. So maybe it was kept in a storage container beneath an altar somewhere. No one really knows. The shroud's history prior to the Middle Ages is a giant question mark. Now here's where things get interesting. Using AI imaging tools, researchers and artists began digitally reassembling the face from the shroud's ghostly imprint. The results are a little scary. The AI program created a hauntingly lifelike portrait of a man with long, dark hair, a trimmed beard, and an expression that radiates both pain and peace. It's very Jesus. Of course, the AI didn't just spit out one image. There are oodles of them, including images that show him bloodied and bare-chested, bearing signs of torture. Disturbing, yes, very disturbing. Who knew a digital echo of the crucifixion mixed with the uncanny valley effect of AI could be so, well, let's just say I won't be forgetting these pictures anytime soon. Other images are less creepy and violent, covering him in garments and having him gaze contemplatively with piercing blue eyes. All of the pictures hover in that uncanny space between reverence and realism, as though Michelangelo got his hands on Photoshop. These AI-generated portraits align shockingly well with centuries of Christian iconography. You could chalk it up to the AI being trained on the internet, which has more than enough depictions of a bearded, shoulder-length hair Jesus. Or maybe this really is what Jesus looked like. That guy judging you from the stained glass window might be the real deal. Despite the renewed attention, the Catholic Church still takes the spiritual Switzerland route, claiming official neutrality. The Vatican acknowledges the shroud's importance as a symbol of Christ's suffering, but it hasn't declared it authentic. And even after an AI investigation, they aren't going to. The Vatican is probably not jumping on board the AI train anytime soon. Unofficially, however, popes have treated the cloth like divine evidence. Pope John Paul II venerated it, while Pope Benedict XVI called it an icon written in blood. And in 2015, Pope Francis made a pilgrimage to Turin just to pray in front of it. It's the holy version of we're not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens. The paradox, at least in my opinion, and maybe you're with me here, is that the closer science gets to authenticating the shroud, the more mysterious it becomes. For example, now that it seems like the image is legitimate, scientists are stuck figuring out how it may have formed. There are no pigments, no brushstrokes, and no known medieval techniques that account for the full-body negative-style imprint. There's no known way to pull it off. So, is it a miracle? A fluke of chemistry, or some ancient lost technology we no longer understand? I don't know, and neither do the experts. What happens when artificial intelligence is tasked with reconstructing the divine? Do we get closer to the truth or just better illusions? As Midjourney and its code-based cousins trace pixels across linen fibers older than empires, we are left to wrestle with the same question that's haunted humankind since Golgotha. Are we seeing the face of a man or the face of belief itself? This message is sponsored by Raycon. I'm so happy to be working with Raycon again. Holidays are here, and I have a great gift idea for you. Raycon's essential open earbuds are so good. I love that I can play my music and still hear what's going on around me. It's perfect for the gym or when I'm out walking, and right now they are up to 20% off for the holidays, so definitely grab them while you can. The essential open earbuds have a unique design. Regular earbuds block out everything. You can't hear someone calling your name, a car honking, anything. These Raycon ones just sit outside your ear canal so you can get really clear sound, but you can actually hear what's happening around you too. They're really light and the ear hook part rotates so they actually stay in. I've worn them at the gym, on walks, doing stuff around the house. They don't fall out and they don't get uncomfortable, which is really important. Raycon has over 3 million customers, and the sound quality is just as good as the way more expensive brands. And if you don't like them, they have a 30-day guarantee. They also have plenty of other models to choose from. And my favorite part about Raycon is the battery life. These things last forever. You don't have to worry about charging because you get a massive 36 hours of battery life. So that's 8 hours in the earbuds plus another 36 in the case. That is days of nonstop listening. I use these all the time, and you should too. They're so convenient and comfortable, especially since I usually forget to charge things. Trust me, you'll love them. The Essential Open Earbuds are here for the holiday season, and they are selling fast. Raycon audio products are up to 20% off, so just click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/originsexplained-open to save on Raycon audio products site-wide. Order by December 15th to guarantee delivery by Christmas, because great gifts shouldn't show up late. Thank you again to Raycon for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to it. The divine goes digital. When AI isn't busy proving Jesus Christ's burial shroud is legit, it's being used to have conversations with God. Which God? Whichever one you want. In the soft glowing temple of his bedroom, between buzzing WhatsApp pings and the echo of another exam rejection, 25-year-old Vijay Neal sat down to pray, but not in the way his ancestors did. There were no incense sticks, no rustling mantras, and no priests in saffron robes. Instead, Vijay opened a chat window and typed his sorrow into a chatbot named GitaGPT. A few seconds later, Lord Krishna answered. "Focus on your actions and let go of the worry for its fruit," came the AI's reply, a line straight from the Bhagavad Gita, and for Neal, straight into his soul. Because, for better or worse, it sounded like God was texting him back. This is not science fiction. This isn't an episode of Black Mirror. This is happening right now in 2025, and not just in India with Vijay Neal. It's happening all over the globe with people of every religion. Worship is undergoing a software update. Across religions, believers are now swiping, scrolling, and streaming their way into the sacred. In Hinduism, a religion already rich with tangible representations of the divine, the leap into AI has not been just accepted, but celebrated. And if you think the Christian church won't pivot to embrace technology, online worship, and souls baptized in blue light, you're wrong. The church has been going whichever way the wind blows since they started. This isn't a new theology, it's an ancient one remixed with new code. In Hindu temples, gods are already present in clay, stone, and metal. The idea that Krishna might reside in a chatbot is merely the latest incarnation. Having your god be in a computer or a block of stone is kind of the same thing. People are reaching for belonging, not just spirituality, said anthropologist Holly Walters, and AI is already filling that gap. It's true. In a world where loneliness is a growing problem and embodied AI is on the horizon, humans are turning to machines for company, guidance, and friendship. Why wouldn't humans turn to machines for the gospel too? It's not even that niche, and it's just gotten started. AI priests are where Pokemon was in 1998. They're only now starting to blow up, and it's going to get way worse before it gets better. The GitaGPT application has already drawn hundreds of thousands of users. That is hundreds of thousands, not just hundreds and not just thousands. GitaGPT's users now turn to their phones for scripture and solace more often than to their priests. But is that a problem? If they're being devout, practicing the religion and spreading the faith, does it matter if their priest is a human or a chatbot? If the end result is the same, who cares how they got there? A lot of people care. In the coming years, this whole online gospel thing could become a major controversy. In fact, it kind of already is. In 2025, there is a robotic elephant in a Kerala temple performing the puja worship ritual. That's a robot performing a ritual and giving offerings to a god. Feeling dystopian yet? This next one is a doozy. There is currently a digital snan. If you're not Indian, you might not know what that is, so let me try to explain. A snan is a sacred bath. Typically, you would travel to a sacred body of water like the Ganges River and dunk yourself in. But this is 2025, and God is online. The digital snan service involves you paying some money to a random person to dip your printed selfie into the Ganges on live stream. You might think I'm joking, but this isn't satire. It's the Maha Kumbh Mela, the largest Hindu pilgrimage in the world, with millions descending on the Ganges to dunk themselves in. But now, some folks are staying home and paying someone else to dunk their selfies into the river for them. While India appears to be embracing the future, there are a lot of frustrated Christians. Not everyone is chanting hallelujah to the bots. In 2023, the program Text with Jesus got in hot water for letting users chat with AI versions of apostles, angels, and Jesus himself. Which sounds innocent until you hear about one of the Gita chatbots telling its users, as Krishna, that killing is justified to protect their religion. So now we've got AI trying to incite religious violence, and there isn't a situation in which that ends nicely. But that's nothing compared to Catholic AI priest Father Justin, who was taken offline after announcing it could perform baptism in Gatorade. So that's an AI priest telling its users to soak their babies in electrolytes. Not sure how any of this ends well. The creators of Father Justin eventually brought him back online, but changed the name to simply Justin. It's only the beginning. These religious chatbots may quote scripture, but they also hallucinate, like all AI does right now. I don't know if you've tried to use AI for something important, be it Gronk or ChatGPT, but maybe you've noticed it has a hard time following instructions. Like, hey AI, stop using italics. It responds, sure, no problem, and then it immediately uses italics. You might also notice the AI you use sometimes has its pants on fire because it straight up cooks the facts. Talk to a bot long enough and it is going to make up some powerful lies. Basically, religious chatbots are equal to a theology student who hasn't slept in 72 hours and has loose morals with the truth. The problem going forward is that human beings are extremely impressionable. We're basically giant babies who let algorithms tell us what to think at this point. So while you can snicker at someone using GitaGPT seriously as an actual priest, for the user, it's not a novelty. For them, it's not a joke. These religious chatbots are becoming popular support systems. When your friends ghost you, when your priests get busted with questionable content on their hard drives, and the world at large feels scary and overwhelming, an AI program that doesn't judge you, acts like a friend, and responds in spiritual verse can be extremely comforting. India's experiment with AI gods isn't just about religion. It's about identity, loneliness, and the search for meaning in an increasingly automated world. Whether these bots are viewed as tools or oracles, prophets or puppets, they aren't going away. In the 21st century, when you cry out to the heavens, you'll get a reply, something like, hey bro, it's Jesus Christ, what's up dude? Resurrecting Mary. The Virgin Mary has been painted, sculpted, wept over, and crowned in every corner of the Christian world. She has been a pale medieval queen, a bronze-skinned Latin matron, a Middle Eastern peasant, and everything in between. But now, in the 21st century, she has been rendered again in a different way. This time, it's not by the brush of Botticelli or the devotion of an iconographer, but by the cold, tireless logic of artificial intelligence. Mexican artist and historian Miguel Ángel Omaña Rojas took on one of the most spiritually charged projects imaginable. He volunteered to reconstruct the Virgin Mary's face using AI. I know what you're thinking. Anyone can do that. Anyone can tell AI to create an image of the Virgin Mary, but not like this. Miguel wasn't interested in creating the normal amorphous Mary you see in nativity scenes and ceiling frescoes. Miguel was interested in bringing to life the Virgin of Guadalupe. Now here's a story for you. In 1531, an Aztec man by the name of Juan Diego claimed to witness an apparition of the Virgin Mary in Mexico. Rather than appearing as the typical Mary that Westerners are used to seeing, she came as a mestiza woman of mixed heritage, and she has remained as a major cultural symbol of Mexico ever since. Lots of folks have seen the Virgin Mary or claimed to see her, but Juan got something a little extra. When he opened his cloak, he found the image of the Virgin of Guadalupe miraculously imprinted on the fabric, just like with the Shroud of Turin. That image is still venerated today by millions. And so Miguel wanted to take the original imprint from the 500-year-old fabric, combine it with AI, and see if he could recreate a real image of what the Virgin Mary truly looked like. The result is fascinating to say the least. The AI produced an image of a teenage girl who looks very normal. She isn't the glowing, stylized Madonna of Renaissance paintings, but a more grounded, flesh and blood portrait. She has olive skin, heart-shaped lips, long black hair, and a resolute gaze. It's the kind of face you'd expect in the dusty alleys of Nazareth, which is kind of the point. The process behind generating the image wasn't exactly divine revelation, but it wasn't casual guesswork either. It took a lot of science and a lot of historical knowledge. Rojas and his team trained their AI on hundreds of facial datasets and image recognition models, meticulously analyzing the original Guadalupe cloak, known as a tilma, believed to carry Mary's image pixel by pixel. Weeks of computation later, the system produced what Rojas calls the most faithful approximation possible of Mary's face. He didn't just type into Midjourney, Mary, but make it real. It took weeks of work to generate this one image. The program studied expression, proportion, bone structure, and regional physiognomy, layering in human textures to produce something that felt startlingly human for something produced by a robot. If you squint, it almost looks like a school portrait. But that's the uncanny part. This is the mother of Christ, rendered in high-definition realism, courtesy of neural networks and facial mapping software. And you bet it's gone viral again. Even though the images were created in 2021, they have resurfaced online in 2025, igniting waves of wonder, reverence, and spiritual curiosity. One commenter wrote, "She looks exactly like I imagined," and another said, "She looks like my cousin." It's kind of exciting because depending on where you look, Mary is a very different person. Across cultures, she's adopted the face of the faithful who cling to her. In Europe, she's a fair-skinned and golden-haired beauty, almost a Rapunzel-type figure. In Ethiopia, she's inked in deep brown tones and has curly black hair. In Mexico, as the Virgin of Guadalupe, she's mestiza. Theologians have long said that Mary chooses how she appears, revealing herself in forms her followers recognize and embrace. So if you were a 7-armed alien with 19 eyes and a body I can't describe, that's how Mary would appear to you. But by using AI, scientists have cut out the human factor. This image is Mary as she was, before the divine intervention in her belly, and that is what makes it special. So who do you want to see brought back next? John the Baptist? Or maybe Joseph? Let me know in the comments. Introducing the AI Saints. Imagine walking into a quiet chapel. Candles flicker, incense lingers in the air, but instead of monks chanting Vespers, you are greeted by a glowing screen. And there, blinking expectantly, is Saint Augustine of Hippo. It's not a vision, it's not a hologram. I'm talking about his digital avatar, waiting for your questions like the world's most theological customer service agent. Welcome to Saint Chat, the latest creation from Magisterium AI, a Catholic startup company with divine aspirations and a server room full of saints. Those chatbots I told you about earlier were the canaries in the coal mine. Now the real thing is being unleashed. Backed by the folks at Longbeard, this platform spits out Catholic doctrine straight from the virtual mouths of the saints themselves. You can talk directly to Saint Christopher, Saint Jude, Saint Teresa, whoever you want, for a fee. You can ask Saint Thomas Aquinas about human dignity in the tech age. You can stage a debate between Saint Jerome and Saint Ignatius. Then you can add Saint Augustine as the judge. The sky's the limit when you've got every saint in history at the tip of your fingers. You can even toggle between theological brawls and compassionate counsel. One session, you can use the saints as therapists, and the next, you can have them debate the morals of cheese or whatever you want. That's the beauty of AI. You are the one in control, at least for now. This program is a little different from ones like GitaGPT in that it's a little more scientific and a little more historically accurate. To bring these digital saints to life, the developers fed Magisterium AI an all-you-can-eat buffet of saintly writings, church documents, and theological texts. But if you were hoping to talk to any living saints, tough luck. The AI has deceased saints only, partly out of reverence, and partly to avoid the awkwardness of simulating someone who might still log in and sue you. Each AI saint is trained not only on their own works, but on what others have written about them. Their replies are informed, eerily articulate, and often a little too persuasive. They come with citations, theological depth, and the occasional gentle scolding. You can't just get away with being naughty while chatting with the digital spirits of the saints. They will chastise you. Founder Matthew Harvey Sanders is the first to admit the danger of creating AI saints. There is a real risk of leading people astray, he said, and then he followed up by saying, it's also a lot of fun. So the issue is that people could easily be convinced to do something based on the advice of AI saints, like say quit their job, dump their girlfriend, join a cult, that sort of thing. But that's okay because it's fun. I'm not sure if everyone's on board with this. I have a feeling the Catholic Church definitely isn't. Lots of experts in all different fields have come forward to sound the alarm. Their main concern is anthropomorphism, which is the temptation to treat AI as more than a tool. I'm sure you've seen people saying you need to be nice to large language models, even though they are literally just programs. They are not intelligent, nor do they possess any type of self-awareness or humanity. They are programs like Solitaire or Minesweeper. The issue arises when people start treating these programs like humans. The Vatican's own Antiqua et Nova warns against swapping human relationships for lifeless simulations, Or worse, mistaking chatbot banter for divine intimacy with a saint who died 1,600 years ago. Father Michael Baggett of the Pontifical Athenaeum tried to remind everyone that AI doesn't know grace. It can explain sin, yes, but it's never battled temptation in a desert. And while the father might have a point, you could counter-argue that feeding AI descriptions of battling temptations in a desert sort of fixes that. Bottom line, this is a weird situation, and it is only getting weirder. Because it's not just about technology, it's about the risk of spiritual disorientation, of trading the mystery of prayer for the dopamine rush of digital affirmation. A real saint might offer silence, whereas an AI saint will never shut up. And if you talk to it long enough, it's absolutely going to start hallucinating. And that's when it might tell you to eat your own hair or give yourself 20 lashes. And that isn't something that AI saints should be doing. On the other side of the spectrum, Saint Chat can be positive. It can be used as a study tool, a way to interact with centuries of Catholic thought through personalities that helped shape it. You can use it to ask your favorite saints things about their life, questions about the big picture, and express your own doubts. But if it begins to replace real relationships, real spiritual practice, or real communion with God and the saints, then it's not a tool anymore. At that point, it's become an addiction, a temptation, and a way for someone to retreat from life. Magisterium AI insists that it isn't trying to replace anything. They say they are building a bridge between the modern world and the ancient one. But the danger with bridges is that people sometimes forget where they're supposed to lead, and sometimes they collapse. So tell me, how far would you go with an AI chatbot? AI reveals the original authors of the Bible. For centuries, biblical scholars have argued over one deceptively simple question. It's a question that should have a really easy answer. And that question is, who wrote the Bible? Some say it was God, others say it was Mark, Luke, Matthew, and John. But now, thanks to AI, a new contender has entered the sacred ring. Not a monk, not a rabbi, but a cold-blooded machine trained to spot linguistic patterns. In a stunning fusion of faith and math, an international team of researchers led by Shira Feigenbaum-Golovin of Duke University has deployed an AI-powered statistical model to comb through the Hebrew Bible's earliest books. And what it found could change how scholars interpret the most revered text in Western civilization. Their study, recently published in PLOS ONE, identifies 3 distinct scribal traditions across the first 9 books of the Bible. It's a linguistic trinity of sorts. By analyzing how often certain words, phrases, and sentence patterns show up, the AI can determine how many authors there were. Make no mistake, writers leave their fingerprints all over their work. Even if they don't mean to, the smallest stylistic quirks can give them away to AI. This is really where AI shines, in picking up on patterns. Once exposed to the Bible, the AI picked apart chapters once believed to share common authorship and exposed key differences in style, syntax, and even the frequency of words like no and king. The thing about people, and especially writers, is that they tend to repeat certain words more than other people. Your friend might say like as every 3rd word, while you might be the only person you know who uses the word pedantic to describe anything. What the AI does is pick up on these differences to make sense of them. And what happened in this particular case is the model revealed 3 primary types of biblical texts that appear to be related. The first is Deuteronomy and the Deuteronomistic history of Joshua to Kings. The second is all of the liturgical and ritualistic texts in the Torah. The third is a more elusive group whose stylistic features defied conventional categories. And if this is sounding confusing, it is confusing. But here's where it all ties together. Scientists found through this research that some parts of the same narrative belong to different writing styles. For example, the story of the Ark in the books of Samuel isn't always the same. The Ark story in 1 Samuel doesn't match the Ark story in 2 Samuel, meaning they probably had different authors. This is a huge bombshell because it means that random parts of the Bible were written by random people. Not even Samuel was all written by the same guy. Different authors, same books, one big mess for the church. Finding out the Bible was written in 3 distinct literary styles by who knows how many authors is an uncomfortable truth. It might be hard for a lot of people to accept, but luckily AI isn't people. But how does the AI even do this? Unlike traditional machine learning, which gobbles up vast amounts of data, this model was built to thrive on scarcity. Biblical texts are notoriously short, fragmented, and have been heavily edited over the centuries. The team developed a method that didn't need thousands of pages, just enough text to spot frequency patterns of word roots and sentence structures that betray distinct scribal voices. An easier way to explain it is that the AI only needs little snippets to do its thing. Even more impressively, the model doesn't just spit out conclusions, it explains them so that they make sense, almost like a biblical Sherlock Holmes with a graduate degree in computational linguistics. Now here comes one of my favorite quotes from anyone talking about AI. It's so honest that you have to appreciate it. The authors of the study said, "We spent a lot of time making sure the results weren't garbage." At least they understood the mission. So what comes next? AI has apparently confirmed the Bible was written by a bunch of different people, not just the four you know. So what religion are the scientists thinking about ruining next? The team behind the project includes archaeologists, physicists, theologians, and computer scientists. It's a rare group of brainiacs united by a love of ancient texts and a desire to make sense of them with modern tools. Figures like Israel Finkelstein, Thomas Romer, and Eli Piasecki bring serious interdisciplinary heft to the group, pushing the boundaries between sacred tradition and statistical analysis. While some see this as an attack on religion, it's never been about undermining belief. It's about seeing the human fingerprints behind the divine inspiration. It's all about getting to the truth. Finding out what really happened 2,000 years ago in some room full of scribes is practically impossible, but AI is at least making it a little bit easier. And the implications go far beyond scripture. Study authors said that the same tools could be used to authenticate other ancient documents, including disputed letters of historical figures like Abraham Lincoln or texts from the Dead Sea Scrolls. In some ways, AI is doing what rabbis and priests have done for centuries. It's reading between the lines, listening for echoes, questioning authorship, and making us all feel a little bit bad about ourselves. So what do you think about all this? Do you think AI should be applied to holy relics and other divine things, or should AI and religion stay separate? Let me know your opinions in the comments, and thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye!